Welcome back everyone. In today's video I'm going to show you how I painted this F-18. First thing you're going to do is come to the DCS website here. This is the main page. You don't have to be signed in. Just go to downloads, texture templates, and then here's all the templates for that they have up on their website for all the aircraft. So find your aircraft that you're going to paint. In this case, it's going to be the FA-18C Lot 20. You download it. Once it's downloaded, go to your downloads. Here's the file. All of your repaints need to be in this particular folder. This is a very important part, the naming of this. So as you can see here, I have 3 aircraft here. I haven't finished the repaint for the A-10. How they are named is extremely important. You can't just put F-18. It has to match what's in DCS. So the regular DCS folder, your install folder, look at CoreMods and then aircraft, and then it'll tell you exactly what the folder name is, and you have to name it exact. So if you're painting the F-16, the F-18, these are exactly what you have to have on your folder names. Otherwise, DCS will not know where to look for your repaints. We're going to go here in the F-18. You can see you get the Dragon Riders in here, a couple of them, me and Punch's personal planes. What we're going to do today is do a new Dragon Rider paint scheme. So I'm going to just call it Dragon Riders. I like to keep these templates blank and not work off the actual template itself in case I want to fix something or change something, but that's totally up to you. You can always go back and download them again, so it doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do this time though is I'm just going to take the F-18, throw it in there into that new Dragon Riders folder that I created, and I'm going to pull up the folder. We're going to go ahead and extract them here. And that's one good thing about the F-18 is this is it. This is all that's in there for the templates. You can keep this in here if you want. It just takes up space. So I'm just going to delete that, the zip file. And that's what we're going to start working with is these textures right here. First thing you have to do is get a description file. The description will tell DCS what textures are for what and what they do and how, and that way they can be displayed properly. So just this here, it ain't gonna work. You need a description file with all of your liveries. To get the description file, the F-18 does not have one in that file that we just downloaded. So what we're gonna do is there's a couple ways you could do it. One way is you can just go steal one from another aircraft, which totally fine. Just copy and paste it into yours. Don't change it on the other aircraft, like one of the core repaints. Don't change it. Just copy and paste it into yours. But I'm going to show you how to use this ModelViewer that DCS has. So right here up on the screen is going to be the file path for it, and it will be down in the description too, so that way you can check it out. But what I did with this ModelViewer, since I'm doing a few paints, is I just created a shortcut on my desktop. So if you're going the ModelViewer route, first thing you're going to want to do is navigate to this file path again, and it will be in the description. And what you want to do is this auto execute.lua. You want to add this line into that ModelViewer. And what this line does, it points the ModelViewer to your saved games folder and the liveries folder. That way you can pull up your repaints with the ModelViewer. If you do not add this in there, it will not know where your saved games folder is, and you will not be able to check out your repaints that you're doing. So I use the ModelViewer while doing repaints to look at it and see the changes that I'm making while I'm painting it, but it just makes it a lot easier doing it this way, rather than constantly opening DCS, going in, putting a plane down, checking out the paint, and then exiting DCS, changing it, opening DCS, and keep doing that. It just makes it a lot easier just doing it with the ModelViewer. And just remember, after you type this out and you put it in here, and you click save, and it might, like mine, it told me that I needed to have administrator privileges on Notepad++. That's what I use for my text editor. So what that does is it told me I needed administrative privileges for it. And so what I did was when I clicked save and I clicked yes, then all right, so once you changed that Lua file, you should be able to pull up any custom liveries that you've created. So right now what we are going to do is earlier I said you needed a description file. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this ModelViewer to get a description file of the F-18 Lot 20. So you're going to go to File, Load Model. Here's the file path. And you want to select your model that you're going to be using. So right here's the F-16, FA-18C. I'm going to hit that. And then you're going to do Shapes. And then you're going to find your model, FA-18C EDM. You want the EDM. And then you're going to open that up. And there's the F-18 model and ModelViewer. So here are all the textures with the aircraft. You can pretty much change all the textures in your repaint. So to generate the description file that we need, you're going to want to click this button right here. It's kind of a blue squarish looking thing. And when you mouse over it, it's going to say generate livery file. You click that. You navigate to your save games folder where we have our repaint folder that we're going to do. And the file name, just leave it as is. It's going to be a description.lua. You're going to save that file. And then you can exit out of TeamViewer for right now. We will come back to that later after we do some painting. All right, so now what you want to do, what I usually do is when I start, I'll go to the description file, open it up in my text editor. Again, I use Notepad++, and it is crazy in here. These are all the textures that this aircraft's going to use. If this is set to false, everything on here is set to false already. It's going to look for all these textures in my folder if it's set to false. If it's set to true, it's going to use DCS's files, so you won't get the paint. It'll basically just use the default files for them. So the first thing I do is I'm going to do Control F here, and I'm going to find and replace all the falses with the true, and then replace it all. So they're all at true now. And what you're going to do is go in here and look at the files. So right now, these are all the files that I have in here that I'm going to paint. The F-18C1 diff and the C2 diff. These are PSD files that I will edit in GIMP, and then when we export them in GIMP, they will be a DDS file after we export them, and we'll get to that later. But it's important that every file that you use here, so if you decided to paint the pilot's helmet, it's going to be in here. If you decide to paint the fuel tanks, it will be in here. So you might not only have 3, you might have 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. It's important that all of these, you look through here and you change them. You change all the file names that match with the description Lua. You change them to false. That way it'll use these on the ones that are false, and then the ones that are true that you don't have, it'll use just a regular default one. But we'll get to that. All right, so after you switched all those to true, there's one more thing that you're going to have to do. So I have no idea what this means. Sorry, but it's just, to me, it's just a file type. But this is using specular, and DCS doesn't use that anymore. It's kind of an older thing. So what you're going to do is you're going to Control F again, find and replace all the speculars with a roughness metallic. That's what they use now. So replace all the speculars with the roughness metallic. All right, so now that you have them all set to true and the roughness metallic, you're going to have to come down here to the very, very bottom. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to tell this description file what the name of your actual folder is called in your liveries. So it's called Dragon Riders. And so that has to match that. Otherwise, it will not come in here and pull the information that the sim needs to do the repaint. And then now we are ready to do the actual painting. All right, so now I am in GIMP. It's a free program, image manipulation program. It's free. Link is in the description. This isn't going to be a GIMP tutorial, but hopefully you got a little bit of understanding on how to use GIMP, or you can figure it out. There's a lot of tutorials out there. So I'm going to just show you how I do the paints real quick. First thing you're going to do is I'm going to do one file at a time. So I'm going to go to my Dragon Riders livery here that I'm going to make. And I'm going to just start with the very first one. Just click and drag it in there. This pops up. This PSD might be using a different RGB workspace or RGB colors and stuff like that than what my workspace is here in GIMP that I have. So what you want to do is if this pops up, just convert it, because a lot of the times what will happen is it'll come out a lot darker than you actually paint. Like let's say you paint like a brown or something. Why would you paint an F-18 brown? I don't know. Sand maybe. But it'll come out like super, super dark, and it won't be a nice, bright, vibrant color. So make sure you convert them if it asks you to convert the RGBs. Basically, here it is. What you're going to do right here is a base. So a lot of the times they'll have a spot here on these. If the texture templates are really good, they'll have a spot for where to tell you, put your base color here, put this here, put that there, right? So, and then a lot of the times here, you see how it's all worn out and dirty. Some people like that. I don't. So you can shut the dirt off. Now you got a nice, clean, brand new jet to work with. And then there's your base layer. Select whatever color that you want to use. This is the color I'm going to use here for mine. After you got your color selected, this is the base layer. You click on it to make sure it's highlighted. I'm going to create a new layer, and this will place this layer above the base layer. I want to fill it with my forward round color and not a transparency, and then that'll paint that'll paint the entire aircraft in a single color. So once you have your base layer down, then you can start putting down all your special logos that you want. Now, I can't tell you exactly where everything is on these usually, but if you kind of look at them, you can kind of figure out, like right here is the, I don't know what they're called on the F-18, basically the little canard looking things that are right next to the cockpit. That's those. This looks like an underbelly or a top maybe. I think this might be the top of the aircraft. On these texture files, there are a lot of different textures that represent different things. Like right here, crazy enough, this is the actual nose cone for the aircraft. I mean, it's not very obvious that's what it is. And all these little white spots everywhere, these are all antennas for the outside of the aircraft. So like maybe you don't want to paint the antenna, but maybe the texture that's around the antenna, like the mounting bracket. So you're basically just going to have to mess with these and figure out what texture goes where. And this is part of the problem that makes repainting such a pain in the butt sometimes, is figuring out what actually is the texture for what, because sometimes it's not obvious, like this nose cone right here. Once you got your livery down, go ahead and put down whatever, like this guy is just going to stay just like this. So you can save this file if you want. You can overwrite the PSD if you're just going to keep it and not change it anymore and do different colors, different schemes. So I just went ahead and overwrote the PSD file. So next time I open this, it'll still be a nice base layer. These are just guides right here. So if you don't want these, they are good to help you when you're putting in logos and stuff like that. So just ignore these, or you can come up here to image guides and remove them all. So some textures make this a lot easier than others. Like you see how the details, like here's the color, and then it's got all the colors in there and different textures and whatnot. And then the details are up here above it. So a lot of the times when you export this, you have to have all the layers selected. Like if I go to export and I just have this, it's not going to get all the details. So on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the details and put it underneath the color, right on the top of the color grouping that they made on here, since I'm not using the dirt here. And then that's going to stay too. So I will put that on top of the detail just to make sure they're all in the color. So if you want your dirt, go ahead and move your dirt inside there instead of having to merge all the layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and highlight color, and then I'm going to go over here, export as. You're going to take this, get rid of the PSD and type in DDS. Keep the same name up here of the original image that you just opened. Just change it to a DDS format. Click export. And then once you come here, a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll start out with a compression of DXT1. I do not know when to use the compression and when not to use the compression. When I painted the F-16's tail, I had to click none because the DXT compressions here, DXT1, 3, and 5, the tail would show up all black and it didn't work. It wasn't showing up my texture until I just messed with this, and then I exported it as a none. I start out with the DXT1. Image is the selected layer. That's what it's going to save. So that's why I said make sure you have the layer that you want selected. And this, so click this group and all these in the group will show up. So basically you'll have all your textures. Bitmaps, go ahead, generate the bitmaps when you export as a DDS. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that bitmaps, what those are is it'll generate varying sizes of images of your texture file here for use by DCS. So when the aircraft is further away, it's going to have less detail and basically a less resolution on the aircraft at range, so that way it saves up on computer resources. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But go ahead and click export. Now inside of your custom livery file, you should have a DDS and you should be able to see the picture of it. All right, so for right now, I'm done with this because I just want to take a look at it in the model viewer with just a base color on there, kind of figure out what all these textures are, if I need to make any adjustments on the colors and everything like that before I start putting on any kind of really small detail like your fighter squadron logo that you want on there or whatever. So I'm just going to leave this like this now that it's exported. I'm going to exit out of this, and then I'm going to pull up our folder, go to the next texture, click drag and drop into the GIMP workspace, convert it, so that way we can make sure that the colors are bright and nice. And this one, it's pretty obvious what this one is. Here's the wings. Here is the vertical stabilizers. Those are the outsides of the tail. That's probably going to be the insides of the F-18's tail. So first thing I do when I open these up, get rid of the dirt. I am going to get rid of, and a lot of the times, like this one says dirt, but you can't always tell what's what. So basically VFA-37, I'm guessing that's the tail flash. There it is. That's gone. I get rid of that. Looking at region to see what that is. Okay, that's that little walking strip right here. It's pretty neat looking texture. You don't want to get rid of that. Radios, those are the little RWR radio slots all over the aircraft. Okay, so here's your base layer. So highlight the base layer, new layer, and foreground color, make sure it's selected. Foreground color, and good. There we go. It's all blacked out, that's what I want for this aircraft. I always forget this part. So details, we're going to put it in the color. AO low, put it in the color, and it matters. It really does matter. So the details were below this. So if you there is, I mean, I know I said this is not going to be a full GIMP tutorial, but just little things here and there. Each layer, like if you move this layer underneath it, that layer is going to be on top of that layer, and it could drown out all your stuff. So these matter. So if the detail is below the AO low, when you move them down to the color section, make sure the AO low is above the detail like it was up here. So highlight the color, overwrite, and then come up here, export, same thing, DDS. And then we're gonna do the DXT one again, just because that's where I usually start. So if it doesn't come up right, what you do is just go in here, open it again, and then export it again, and then you can change this the next time you export it if you need to adjust to a none. So I'm gonna export that. That is exported. We got 2 texture files so far. Now what we're gonna do is gonna go into the description.lua. All right, so here's one problem that I've seen. So like I said, this has to match what is in here. You see how this one says F-18C_2_diff, and this is F-18C_2_diff, spelled different and capitalized. That matters. But the names on these files don't match what's in this description. Not a big deal. What we're just going to have to do is we're just going to have to change the names of these to match what's in the description file. That just makes it easier rather than trying to rename all of these in the description file to match what we have here. We'll just do it this way. So it's going to be a diff2, F-18C2 diff. So it's going to be, its diff is the diffuse layer. That's your actual painted layer. And so I'm going to come in here, I'm going to Control C, I'm going to copy that. And notice how when I selected that, there is 2 different files. So we're going to have to change both of these to false once we change the name. And there's 2 more here. So everything F-18C2, F-18C2 diffuse, we're going to have to change those. These down here, like this one, F-18C number X diffuse, we don't have to change that one. So I'm going to go into here. I'm going to rename this one, Control V to paste it. There, now that texture file matches these. So now what we're going to do is come in here and change this to false. False. Then select that so you can easily find the other ones. And we'll do false. You can also copy and paste F-18C2 diffuse to false. Save. Always save it. And then now that you saved it, we will open up the model viewer to see if it worked. All right, now that we're in the model viewer, we're going to check and see if our little repaint worked. You can go here to recent files and open up your most recent file, or you can just load again. It should take you right back to where you were. Just make sure you select the right aircraft, FA-18C EDM. All right, once that's loaded, you can go either to tools and then down to livery tool, or you can just, or you can push Control L to bring up the livery plugin, the tool plugin. And so earlier when we changed that Lua file for the model viewer, this is why, because right here is our F-18C Hornet folder and our liveries thing. So if we didn't change that, we would not be able to see this F-18C Hornet. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on the F-18C. All right, after we clicked on the F-18C, it brings up all the liveries that are in the game for that aircraft, and also it's bringing up our painted ones. So make sure you change that description file earlier, like we did earlier. So I'm going to click here, Dragon Riders. That's the one, that's our name. I'm going to load, and there we are. So these are, so everything that you see painted here is the textures that were changed on that file. So like I said, here's the outside of the tail, inside of the tail. That looks good. So every time you come in here and look at this, I'm not sure if the refresh will work or not, but I always just exit and then reload this the next time I have to come in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to exit out of this and go back to the description file and add in the first layers. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and do the other texture is the C1 texture. So let's see how many there are on this one. F-18C1 diff. 1, 2. And I'm looking over here at this line to make sure that it says F-18C1. If it says F-18C1, let's see, find an example real quick. F-18C1 number or kill left, right, whatever. You don't want to change you don't have to worry about changing that right now. The ones we're looking for are the ones that just say F-18C1 diffuse. So there are 3 of them on this one. Why there's 3 instead of 4, I have no idea. Don't ask me. But I just work here. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that one. I'm going to pull this up, right click it, rename, and Control V to change the name. And I will also change the name on these two. That way we don't mess it up if we try go in there and change or fix or do whatever to the paints. So that's changed to match what's in this file. So now all we have to do is come in here and change all these to a false. Control C, and then I'm going to click on that to highlight it so that way I can come down and find the other ones easier. So F-18C1 diffuse, we're going to change that to a false because we're going to use hours. And then the other one is right here, F-18C1, change that to false. There was only 3 of them because we checked that before. These ones you don't have to worry about again because they have other notations other than just the F-18C1. All right, we're going to save that. Then let's go ahead and open up the model viewer to take a look and see and make sure that our paint is on the aircraft. All right, back here in the model viewer, I'm going to go ahead and open the recent file, the F-18C. There it is. I'm going to do Control L. And then I'm going to click on the F-18C Hornet, Dragon Riders, and load. There we go. All right, so this is what I was talking about earlier. You see how very, very dark this texture is. These textures are a lot darker than these textures. That's something that we are going to have to fix in the texture editor. And I'm guessing, I'm pretty sure I clicked on convert, but I'm guessing that I might not have, or I need to fix the compression of those textures. So let's go ahead and try that and see what I did. Okay, so I got the number 1 loaded up. I'm gonna highlight the color. I'm gonna fix this again because I think I didn't save it afterwards. So we'll go ahead and do that and override it. So that way it's there next time I need to come in here and fix something. So I got I'm suspicious of 2 different things and why that texture is darker. First one's what I talked about earlier, the RGB. Maybe I accidentally clicked cancel instead of convert. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to image, color management, convert to color profile, and then it'll bring that screen back up, and then I'm going to hit convert. All right, so now that it's done doing the convert, I'm going to highlight the color, go over here to export. All right, so I'm going to export this. For some reason, GIMP is acting all funny and it won't let me select this. So I'm just going to use a shortcut, Shift, Control, and E to export. So make sure color's on. So Control, Shift, E. And then what we're going to do is we're here and it's going to be that one, right? No, sorry. It's going to be that one. You want to overwrite the DDS. So this is the number 1 that I opened. And then so I want to overwrite this F-18C diff.dds, replace it. DXT1, generate bitmaps, export. All right, so now I have to go back into the viewer to see if that fixed it. All right, back here in the model viewer, we're gonna open the recent file, the F-18. You're gonna get pretty good at going back and forth and looking at this stuff because Control L, FA-18C Hornet, Dragon Riders, you can also double click it, do that. All right, so it's still dark. All right, welcome to repainting, folks. It's aggravating. All right, so another thing I'm going to try is I'm going to try the compression, a different compression on it. There we go. There's a texture that we missed right here, but now you can see that it's not blacked out and completely dark, and it has all the details. So that's what we want. So what is that? Oh, it's just a little messed up little tear in the texture right there that we'll have to fix. As you can see, it's a pain in the butt sometimes doing all these. And then there's a little space right here that's missed for somehow. I suspect from the texture, it's something to do with these right here, possibly. But we will figure that out. All right, so I figured out what the problem was, why the textures were like there was a white spot here and in the middle. So again, welcome to repaints. So what happened was over here in GIMP, when I selected this, when I select this color layer, the bounding box for the color layer was, so like let's say ladder, you select the ladder, it shows you this box here. The mesh, it shows you this square right there. So when I selected the color, for some reason, it was outside of the bounds here. So what I'll do is I'm going to go Control Z, back it up. So right there, you see how that box is outside of the actual working space that we need. That's a problem because then the textures won't line up correctly. So like if you go here to details, all these other ones are within the bounding box of the actual resolution for this. So let's say, let me just do this real quick. I'm going to go to color. I'm going to scale it, and then I'm going to scale it down a little bit here. So you see how the workspace is a certain resolution and a certain size. If this at all, even if it like right here, it's just a blank spot right out here. I don't know what that's about, but even that blank spot makes the image not line up correctly. So I'm going to Control Z, go back. So what I had to do to fix this, so again, click and just watch the bounding boxes and make sure they're within. So I click the color, this bounding box is outside. So what I had to do is I created another layer at the very top, and that gives me the bounding box right here. And so what I did was I just did a select on that layer to get the bounding box exactly where I wanted it. Come back here, click on color, and all you got to do now with that selection going, right click it, you want to layer, and then you want to go down here, crop to the selection, and see, boom, it got rid of that. Oops, I just clicked on something. I probably just broke it. But so it got rid of that extra box around there. Even that little tiny bit extra around these texture templates will throw off your paint, as you saw before. So after I did that, I went ahead and saved it. And then I think I saved it. Let's go ahead and save it. Control E. But after you fix that, make sure, again, anytime you make a change, save, and then go over here, highlight your main layer where everything is under, and then export it again. And then when I opened up the viewer, there you go. It got rid of that white bar that was there, and it got rid of that discoloration right there. These layers that you hide, like this VFA-37 here on the tail flash, I don't want that tail flash on the aircraft here. I'm going to make my own, but do not delete the layer, just hide them. Okay, And the reason why that is you can see the orientation matters. It's basically a mirror image on the other side. Some aircraft aren't always an exact mirror. It depends on how the texture is wrapped and works with the actual game itself. But make sure you keep these to use as a reference for when you put something on the tail. So like you put like this bull, or in my case, the dragon rider, I'll put a dragon head here with it facing forward because I know that this is going to be looking forward. And then when I put it on the other side, if you just copy and paste it down here, it's going to be upside down and it's not going to look good. So make sure you use those as reference. Now for this F-18, we are going to paint the tank for it, the FPU-8A. So what you're going to do is you need to add that to your description file because the one that we created does not have it in there. So what you're going to do is come in here to your main DCS installation for the F-18, and then the path will be down in the description of the video. So what you do when you get here, the Maverick paint has that in it. So just double click on the zip file and it'll open this up. See right here, the FPU-8A _ Maverick DDS. That is the fuel tanks. So what you'll do is you're just going to double click here on the description and it'll bring it up. You'll scroll down and right here you want to copy both of these. And then what we'll do is we'll come back here to our F-18 and we will add those lines in here at the bottom. So just click there on the last one, give you a couple lines, Control V, and then you're going to have to get rid of the Maverick portion of it and rename it exactly what you have from that paint kit. So as you can see here in our paint kit that we've been working on, it's going to be FPU_8 alpha .DDS FPU-8 alpha. So just basically get rid of that, get rid of the Maverick, and get rid of the FPU_8A, and make sure it is set to false. And then right here under the name Dragon Riders, where we put the file folder name, make sure you put underneath it, if you only want it for the United States, countries equals, just like that. And then at the bottom here, all of these right here are for your Bort numbers. I think that's how you say it. Inside the description Lua, to get rid of those, what you have to do is go to all the decals, switch the name to empty equals true for all the decals, and they will get rid of them. I will put a link in the description for the forum post that I saw this on. It was very helpful. And I haven't played around which one does what, so you can do them one at a time and see which ones disappear. I'll let you go ahead and figure that out. In this situation, I have the nose and the top of the vertical stabilizers. And if those are the ones that you want on yours, you can go ahead and just copy what I did here. I left the nose ones on, the left and right nose, and then left the kill left and right on. And then I turned everything else off. I really hope this has helped you guys. Leave a comment down below if you painted an aircraft for the first time with my tutorial. And I hope it helps. I appreciate the support. If it does help, consider giving a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it and helps the channel a lot. I really look forward to hearing that you guys got into painting after watching the video. It takes a lot of practice. Again, hope this helps. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.